Suffering has never been as much fun. Sounds promising. First, we have a selection of pros and cons of the game. Let me read them out to you. Pros. World and its creatures are both fantastic and frightening. More accessible than most From Software games, though not necessarily easier. Sheer potential of exploration is jaw-dropping. And there's only two cons, which are enemy AI isn't too bright and graphics are better from a distance. Now, let's get into the actual text. I can't pretend to be entirely unbiased about Eldenring. From Software is my darling, as it is for so many people, and there is no game it's made since Demon Souls that I haven't played through at least twice, or much more. So bear in mind that these are the thoughts of a Soulsborne veteran, not a fresh-faced adventurer ready to experience their first taste of terror. I'm a prisoner of that reality, leaving me horrified and fascinated by the idea that Elden Ring really could be the best From Software game. Oh damn, considering that the previous From Software games have already been amazing, that is a strong statement. But let's see how they continue. Even saying it, I find it hard to believe. Surely Dark Souls and Bloodborne can't actually be surpassed, right? Those games were bona fide masterpieces, and in the case of Dark Souls, era-defining masterpieces. You don't just improve on something like that. It doesn't make sense. It'd be like Beethoven waving away Ode to Joy as a rushed warm-up to the real thing. We're going to have to unpack this and start at the beginning, which in Elden Ring's case is definitely Torrent. Now, for everyone who doesn't know, Torrent is the name of the mount you ride on across the map of Elden Ring. But let's see what Joel has to say about Torrent. Yes, it's an oversimplification to describe Elden Ring as Dark Souls meets Breath of the Wild, but it's not totally inaccurate and works as a starting point for what we're dealing with here. And yes, the DNA of Dark Souls runs deep in Elden Ring, to the point where this could very plausibly have been Dark Souls 4. Even the title screen looked the same. The Breath of the Wild element is all in the world design. Gone is From Software's tangled spaghetti of interlinking paths, and now we have a wide, expansive continent where rolling plains rise up to ominous mountain fortresses, or descend to, well, poison swamps mainly. There's a fair few of those, so now you can go wandering in practically any direction and find something new to kill, or more likely be killed by. that's where the horse, Torrent, comes in. More than a simple gameplay gimmick, Torrent has to exist because the sheer scope of this world means walking was always going to be too slow. Consequently, a lot of threats are optional now. The first boss you encounter is a towering cavalry knight. You're horribly underleveled for. But then you realize you could always just walk around him. Or go in the other direction. Or just power past on Torrent, making insulting noises while he shakes his fist in impotent rage. As a result, you rarely get into fights if you don't want to, at least out in the open. Torrent can outpace practically any threat, and you can flee in any direction. So when 6 tons of scaly heartburn drops onto the road before you, you just scamper between its legs and vanish into the sunset like the goddamn roadrunner. Sounds surprising, but this is the intentional experience. There are a lot of late game threats spread across the world, even in the early areas, and a big part of how you play is deciding what you're going to confront and what you're going to slink away from until later. I suspect this is why people have been talking about Elden Ring being the most accessible or even easiest from software game. I guess that's half true. It's not that Elden Ring is empirically easier. There are boss monsters here that could give Asian Sword Saint or the Orphan of Cause a run for their money. It's just that the really punishing elements are basically self-inflicted. You deal with them when you choose. More accessible? Yeah, I'll give that. Easier? Not so much. The next part is called See the World and Meet People. And meet is spelled with EA, just so you know. But as somebody very used to Dark Souls, I found myself getting into the combat groove quickly enough. It's the same scrappy, stamina saving, stepping, staggering, and spell slinging that we know and love, but with a few quality of life improvements. Not to mention some bones thrown to those who are getting their feet wet for the first time. Bows and arrows no longer suck, which is a nice surprise. Weapon upgrades have been simplified a so the instinct to craft things never really got hardwired into me. Still, it's not offensive. It occasionally served as a means to craft basic arrows, and it did lessen my fear about burning up limited items when I could always boil up some more from the parsley and a demon of fowl stuffed down my underwear. Even if you're not going full survivalist, traipsing around the wild is a pleasure anyway. Eldenring setting, the lands between, has a singular vibe of its own, close to classic Miyazaki, with added Norse and Arthurian storytelling stirred in. The life-giving world tree looming over you, the legion of heroic knights and their literal round table, the fallen gods seeking ascension. It's all very mythic in appearance and tone, but emotionally, I'd say it's the nearest to Sekiro, because this world isn't quite dead on the vine or locked in frantic madness yet. There's clearly some attempt by the rulers to keep order. It's just all been handled very ineptly, and this bleeds through into the world design nicely. Soldiers march the roads, keep checkpoints at key locations, and even create magical jails that hold some optional boss fights where civilization and the wild make contact. You'll usually see some kind of brawl between knights and slavering monsters, barricades thrown up to keep out the worst nature has to offer. It's all part of the confusion that's clutching this world. Nobody here seems to know who's in charge or why they really deserve it. As a result, your own tarnished feels like an opportunist using the uncertainty to grab what power they can while the chance is there. The world itself is suitably gorgeous. Each region has a clear visual theme that marks it out, but enhanced by creative design. The swamps and lakes to the west have eerie balloons floating over them, half visible in the mist. The fiery wastelands couldn't just be singed rocks, they're overgrown with the fat, tumorous growths that make it feel like the land itself is diseased. And a dragon the size of a skyscraper has crashed into the god's golden capital, its body draped over the palatial architecture. Could a world by Miyazaki be anything other? And though the lands between is gruesome or solemn at times, it's also palpably full of life, giving it an optimistic energy no Saltborn game has had so far. Sheep graze in the grasslands and scatter as a flock as you ride past, while elk flit through the forests and eagles give piercing stares from cliff tops. Even the flowers glow with size of this game still staggers me now. But I'd say the design peaks in the monster variety and creation, which is pretty jaw-dropping. Even the standard enemies are some of the most bewildering, bewitching horrors I've seen. From the underground aquatic ant wasps of the Einsel River to the cherub-winged hag-dogs of Castle Morn to the scuttling ringed hand spiders of Mount Gelmir, it's a little overwhelming. I could spend years building my From Software Pokédex, and the bosses, as ever, are the moment Eldenring ramps things up to 11. The usual cabal of legendary warriors and unspeakable atrocities, they come crashing towards you with unbridled bombast, ferocity,